Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rise of Justice Movement, the podcast. My name is Zachary Mallory, and I am the founder and the host of the Rise of Justice Movement and the Rise of Justice Movement, the podcast. Today, we'll get viewer discretion is advised due to the nature of the topics that we'll be discussing. All right. So, you're probably wondering why I gave a viewer discretion is advised on a candidate interview. And the reason for that is because I'll be addressing gun violence, addressing domestic violence, addressing survivors, addressing, like Jeffrey Epstein. There'll be a lot of things that'll be kind of mentioned during this episode. So I wanted to be mindful. If you're listening beyond this point, well, be prepared because this is going to be a good conversation. But today I am joined by Erin, who is running and conducting, Kentucky's 6th Congressional District. Erin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
And it's great to have you, first of all. I've been following you on social media and doing a phenomenal job. If I do say so myself. I also love how you bring the human approach to this. And what I mean by that is far too often campaigning feels robotic. And what I mean by that is like you have I'm just going to say it, you have the establishment that feels like controlled opposition. I mean, you have Cory Booker that's on a book tour.
Yeah,
um,
he's taking video. He's posting these like hot take videos, like being mad at Republicans in Congress. And he's like, how dare they do this? And oh, I think he was talking about like TSA and ICE. And he's like, how dare they do that as he's in an Uber to Newark to go to his book tour. I'm like, well, sir, you could be doing something about this. You are in power. So
I mean, you're literally in the U.S. Senate. I mean, you are literally an elected official. And if people on the ground and even your own constituents are disappointed, who are you representing? Now, let's start by sharing who you are
sure.
and give us like the Cliff Notes version of who you are and why you're running at a time where it feels imperative to get, for lack of a better term, to get these voices across the country at all different levels of government, the progressive voices. And progressive gets thrown around a lot.
Hmm.
It does.
Yes.
But what does that grassroots look like? Is the $1 million, well, it should be no corporate dollars.
And it's a $213,000 question.
Exactly. But um, walk us through, I'm sorry, that was good. That was a good one. Um, y'all, I'm exhausted because I've been interviewing candidates, but it is good to just laugh sometimes. And there's going to be a lot of that with Erin. I can already tell that
Don't laugh
right
and
now.
don't
But
cry.
oh, I cry. Oh, I cry.
So, no, thank you so much. Yeah, so my name is Erin Petrey. I am from Kentucky. I grew up in the middle of the woods on a farm in central Kentucky in Lawrenceburg and Anderson County. I am a public school graduate. I always wanted to be a diplomat. That's why I went to the George Washington University in DC. I studied international affairs and anthropology. Then I came back to the University of Kentucky and got my master's degree at the Patterson School of Diplomacy, thinking I was going to go into the foreign service and I was going to spend my time, my life going around the world, being stationed at embassies, preaching the good word really of, what is good about America and building bridges and improving cultural relationships and trade relationships. I wanted to be a public diplomacy officer. Which essentially is, all those cultural exchanges and, just, winning hearts and minds. But unfortunately, I graduated during a time that is a reality that feels very much like right now, which was the Great Recession. So there were no jobs. So I went to Korea for a year. I taught English in a public elementary school in Southeast Korea in a city called Daegu. And then I came back, and once again, here in Kentucky, there just weren't any jobs for me. So I moved to DC. My first job was at the Embassy of Libya. I was the special assistant to the ambassador of Libya to the United States, where my job was to help reestablish official relationships between post revolutionary and post Gaddafi Libya and the United States government. My third day on that job was Benghazi. That happened. So I have dealt with international crises firsthand, and I was only 24 years old. After that, I went into the private sector, building big things, creating jobs, exporting goods and services from US businesses, small, medium owned, women owned, indigenous owned, veteran owned, and, building things like hospitals. I've also built large scale capital projects programs here in the US South and the Mid Atlantic, mostly focused on manufacturing, renewable energy generation, and ports. I've also worked in EV charging. I have built companies from the ground up from like zero to, $250 million. And I'm someone who really likes to get things done. I'm someone who I like to work myself out of a job. And I'm hoping that, if elected, I will work myself out of a job because I also believe in term limits and building a bench. And so, my whole life I've spent, building big things, doing difficult things, and being the one who, if I see something that needs to be done, just grabbing that bull by its horns and getting it done. I'm always someone who is very reliable, and doing things with excellence and aplomb. And, in November of 2024, I had a decision to make, which was I could sit around and do nothing but rage post to social media and keep working my corporate job, or I could do something about it. And I never really thought about going into politics, because I was like, that's just like a rich person's game. This is just for, people who are already well established. And I'm never going to be elected to anything. That's totally out of my reach. I'm more of, a backroom person that makes things done. And people are always like, oh, if you need somebody good, like, have Erin, she'll be your COO, she'll be your chief of staff. But now I'm on the front lines, and right behind me, I've got, everything that's like my face and stickers and, posters that have my name on it, which is a bizarre state of being. But I started asking folks, in my home district here in Kentucky 6th, and I said, well, who's going to be the obvious Democrat to really take over Andy Barr's seat? Because Andy Barr was going to run for Mitch McConnell's seat. We always knew this. So when Mitch McConnell ran for or announced his retirement, we knew that my representative, well, he's not my representative. He is the person who currently holds the seat, because he is representative of no one but himself and his donors and APAC and mining companies. But he is, I just thought, of course, there's going to be some really strong Democrat who's going to be able to sweep this, but there wasn't, because I actually initially wanted to help that person. But as I continued to go, I just found out that these, the Democrats who kept declaring were kind of the same old, moderate, centrist, not that interesting. And so people kept saying, well, Erin, maybe you should do it. So you know what? I did it. I've never run away from a challenge. So um, I am a proud, unabashed, unapologetic progressive Democrat. We have never really had someone like that run in this seat. I'm also the youngest woman to ever run for this seat. And so, I'm just breaking all those ceilings. And, when I say progressive, people say, well, I've heard, all the candidates say progressive things. And I think that there's a general misunderstanding of what progressive means sometimes, even among, Democratic circles. And, there's one candidate who their followers always say, oh, but so and so is progressive because they're pro-choice and pro-LGBTQ. And I'm like, whoa, being pro-choice and pro-LGBTQ are like price of admission baseline Democrat. Like, if you're not those things, like, you're kind of not a Democrat. That's like saying, oh, I don't believe that Black folks should have separate bathrooms. I'm like, excuse me, like, no kidding. That's kind of basic. Like, that's I'm not, this isn't even a purity test. This is pretty basic. And so to me, progressive is, I'm the only person who will say Medicare for all and abolish ICE and, fuck APAC, to be honest. I'm the only person who has from the beginning said, no, I will not take APAC money, and I will reclassify APAC under FARA with the State Department, which means that they will then be considered not a domestic lobby, but a foreign lobby, because they are a foreign lobby. I mean, how is that a hot take? But I can't, be on the wrong side of history and say I'm okay with aiding and abetting genocide. And no one else will use the G word, even though it's very obvious that that's what's happening. And so, I also, want to ban private prisons, acknowledge climate change is real, lean into renewable energy. There's a lot of those kind of things that, even term limits. The Republicans in my race are running on term limits, but none of my Democratic opponents will sign public pledges to pass term limits. And I'm like, why? This is all absurd. Like, these things are popular. This brings back government accountability. And, when it comes to being grassroots, I like to say, if you don't have a bunch of your own yard signs in the back of your car, you're not grassroots. If you are not clocking, 10,000 steps a day, you're not grassroots. if you aren't in multiple counties a day, you aren't grassroots. And if you have an army of consultants, you are certainly not grassroots. And also, if, most of your money is coming from, millionaires and billionaires in the biggest city in your state, um, and they think that they own you and they get mad at other people who they know who aren't supporting their candidates, you're definitely not grassroots. Um, so yeah, I came into this race September 3rd and people said, "Oh, well, you're late." And I'm like, "Well, I've got 8 months." And now I'm like, "Yeah, I wish I did have more time, but more time is also it's a blessing and a curse. You got to get things done, but I have been able to create a campaign and a political identity and essentially a resurgence of progressivism here in, less than 8 months. I've really built this campaign by myself. I have a scrappy team. We don't have the most money, but I was the third highest raiser in my field in Q1, but I had the second most cash on hand, which means I spend my money more efficiently and more effectively than anybody. So that is all to say. I'm someone who got tired of the way that things are, and I wasn't going to wait for somebody else to come save me.
Absolutely. 100%. That was the introduction of a lifetime, let me just tell you.
Oh, gee.
And that was good. And I love this. And it kind of brings me to like the first talking point that I wanted to hit was about money in politics. You mentioned about APAC. We see this nonstop, but it's not just APAC. There's also, we saw it in the Illinois primary. We saw it in Texas. We see it just really influencing American politics. And it's become very apparent that w- Citizens United was a Supreme Court ruling in 2010.
Yes.
I talk about it religiously on this podcast because it's so incredibly important for people to understand how they classified money as free speech.
Well, but let's go
And
back to
it's
actually
like,
what Citizens United the case was, though.
oh, yes,
It is absurd, right? So
yes.
anybody who doesn't know, we always talk about Citizens United, corporations are people too, right? That's kind of what it boiled down to.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole actual impetus for that was that a private company, Citizens United, put out a Hillary documentary. It was an anti-Hillary Clinton documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying, like, oh, Hillary's dangerous, all these things. And people sued her over it, right? They sued her over it, saying, like, this isn't fair. Like you're putting all this money and into politics and you're trying to affect politics. Um, it was literally over a documentary that was a quote, I'm using documentary with the heaviest scare quotes about Hillary Clinton. It wasn't something like, oh, Intel gave $100 million to a senator, right? That's what I think a lot of people think it is. No, it was about like essentially like PAC money spending or like IE, which is independent expenditure spending. That's what it was.
Yeah. And anybody who was born before 2010 is older than Citizens United versus FEC, the ruling that we're talking about. And how do we, I know this is another loaded question. I know you have a lot to say about this, but how do we begin the process of getting money out of politics? What are some of those steps that we can take? Because we got to think about, it will take obviously a constitutional amendment. That's absolutely for sure. I'm just wondering about with like the 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. I'm thinking about a number of different like factors here, but what are some of those steps that we can take? Because obviously the corporate influence in American politics is currently not working. Gee, it's like trickle down economics literally fucks over the working class, right? I mean, it literally does. This is Ronald Reagan era, and we're still stuck in this bullshit. you know, People on this
I actually,
podcast are used to me, like, and it goes even beyond Ronald Reagan, but it goes even beyond that.
Yeah, but I think that right now what we're seeing is kind of the ultimate confluence of
Yes.
the impact of trickle down supply side Reaganomics and Citizens United coming together, whereas no one who's
Oof.
not a billionaire or corporation has no say in anything anymore, apparently. And so when it comes to Citizens United, they say yes, it will take a constitutional amendment, but I have seen some articles talking about ways that we can get around it. I do think there are a couple of ways that we can get around it. Number one is putting a limit on how much candidates can spend in races. Of course, there's going to be IE, there's going to be PAC spending, but that will be that will be part of it, right? But I also believe in shortening election cycles. And so you can have 12 weeks, right? Maybe 3 months for an election cycle. This will do things to not just combat corporate and rich donors in politics, because by the way, it's individual donors as well, the rich donors who bring all their rich friends in. It's essentially this giant voting block that gets to do whatever they want to do with their own money, and I'm seeing that in my race right now. Actually, someone wrote a really disappointing article because this person is pretty progressive, and they said, "Oh, well, if money could vote, if dollars could vote, then so and so would be winning this race by a lot." And I'm like, "Yeah, but dollars don't vote. So that's bullshit. So maybe don't say this because that's wrong." Um, Anyways, but I'm like, people vote, dollars don't. I mean, dollars do help you get to voters, but um, so, but also the other thing that we're really challenging with right now is, right now I really don't see this as a left-right fight right now. This is a fight between us and the couch because voter apathy is so heavy. So many people are just not voting because they're like, why does it matter? Like, everything's just decided for me anyways. There's corporate Democrats, there's corporate Republicans, like they're all the same, right? And so people just don't care. And I think 27% of people, there was like a Gallup poll that said 27% of people identify as Republican or Democrat. And I'm like, wow, that leaves 73% of the population. Like that's a lot. And we're seeing record numbers here in Kentucky register as other unaffiliated or independent, and they cannot vote in primaries because we have a closed primary system, which I'm also for opening primaries. But um, shortening the election cycle will obviously limit the amount of money you can even raise or spend, but it will also make sure that people know when to start paying attention. Because right now you can declare, I mean, gosh, like our lieutenant governor just declared for her governors. And I was like, why did you do this? We have a critical primary on May 19th, but you wanted to put yourself out there as running for governor just so you could beat the other guy who's going to, announce for Democrat. I'm like, guys, like, why are we cannibalizing each other like this? This is absurd. And so people don't really know when to start paying attention. That's why we have so little. My mom earlier, it was funny. She's like, people are so stupid. They don't even know that there's an election. I said, Mom, it's not that they're stupid, it's they're unengaged and they've lost trust in the system, and we have such a bad job of actually educating the public because people just don't care anymore because they think that it's just all companies, and it's done by design too. People don't want to get out the vote because that way they can control what happens. And I'm like, it's not stupidity, it's ignorance. And for many people, ignorance truly is still bliss, even though it's impacting their lives. So shorting election cycles, reducing the amount of money, but also it comes from people getting mad, right? It's just like, people getting mad at APAC, right? Like Track APAC and things like that coming out saying these are all the people who are bought by APAC. So we need to stop, seeing dollar signs as stars in our eyes as indicators of whether candidates are doing well or not. Being able to raise money doesn't mean you're going to be a good like member of Congress. Being able to raise money means that you're really good at getting people to write you checks. Because there's a lot of people who believe in me, but they're on pensions. They're retired. They're disabled. They are organizers. They are on minimum wage. They are working part time. They are students. They are cash strapped. Just because I don't have a ton of people who can write me $3,500 checks, that means I'm a bad candidate? Meanwhile, I consistently win every debate I'm part of, and I have the most rapidly gaining momentum of anybody else in the race, and I've beat expectations of everyone in my race. Exactly.
Okay. So, whoo. Okay. I feel like Sonic the Hedgehog. I just got like a whole like burst of energy. Because people like you literally, oh my God, I'm getting tongue twisted. This is such a good thing. This is
Breathe
a
in,
really good feeling.
breathe
I
out.
feel,
Just
but so, yes. Now, I want to address gun violence in the state of Kentucky.
okay. Yep.
So, but before I get into that, your launch video was probably one of the best that I've seen in a very
Thank
long time.
you.
The launch video, which was covered by the Kentucky Lantern,
Mhm.
which is also a part of the state's newsroom. And I follow them on social media. That's why I know about them. And that's why I actually knew about who you were because I watched this. And the headline is Another Democrat enters the mix in crowded race to represent Central Kentucky in Congress. And in this video, and they quote it, is, quote, call me old fashioned, but governments, they were built to serve the people, and I want to bring that back, so let me serve you in Congress. This is more than just a statement because this is the grassroots, this is the people powered, and this is a mic drop moment because it shouldn't be old fashioned, it should be common sense.
Just be normal.
Something that a lot of like obviously politicians like definitely lack on both sides of the aisle, some more than others. You know, we talked about Cory book tour at the beginning, and then you have and then
Using
you
that now. Using that now. My gosh.
I cannot coin it because I heard it before. I don't know who originally started it, but you know what? Fuck it. Use it anyway.
Uh,
Because that's exactly what it is. Book tours are not going to save the country. You need to use
it will pop
your
pockets though.
you hmm, and use your 6 foot spine and actually do. He's tall. I don't.
Yes.
I've met him in person. He is very tall. Um, it's actually kind of scary, but yes, he is very tall. Um, but use your spine. Use your spine. It is not that difficult. You go out here, you're on a book tour, and you're sharing about where the Democrats have failed, where Republicans have failed. Dude, you are a part of the establishment. You have failed. Anywho, I'm gonna stop talking about Cory book tour because I want
Yes.
to get back into Kentucky. But there was a horrific case of police in the state of Kentucky, and we all know about this.
Mhm.
And it was Breonna Taylor.
Mhm.
Brianna was a helper. I'm
Mhm.
getting emotional thinking about this and talking about this, so bear with me. Um, Whenever I first heard about this, my heart immediately shattered because Brianna was an EMT. She was an incredible human being. I did not know Brianna, but I found some family members on social media, and because they're very vocal against police brutality, which
Yes.
again, Brianna is just one of many cases that have happened across the state of Kentucky. Kentucky has some of the worst gun laws in the country,
I know.
and we'll dive into that in just a second. But I do want to highlight on there most recently, as of last month, a judge dismissed charges against two ex Louisville police officers in the Breonna Taylor
Yes.
case. These officers were the ones that was accused of fault, or not even just, I hate the word accused because they did. They falsified the warrant used to enter her apartment the night police shot her to death. U.S. District and ABC 7 Eyewitness News wrote this article, and U.S. District Judge Charles Simpson issued a one-page ruling throwing out charges against Joshua James and Kyle Meany. I mean, that last name kind of, fits. Um, it should be Kyle Murderer, but anyway, two former officers involved in crafting the Taylor warrant. Federal prosecutors asked the judge to dismiss charges against the former officers, quote, in the interest of justice. First of
For
all, justice for who? Justice for who? They falsified the warrant, which essentially, is like a no-knock warrant, essentially. And
which
they,
Trump pulled.
yes, 100%, exactly. And
Because we actually did make some meaningful work against no knock warrants, and then
Yes,
Trump reversed those. So
yes. Which is why, and oh God, I get so tongue twisted thinking about this because this will forever be ingrained into my soul is Breonna Taylor. I say her name as we all need to every single day because this is the core of my advocacy. It's the core of my mission with the Rise of Justice movement is to amplify the voices that don't reach the headlines. And for the Marshall Project, which is a nonprofit journalism about criminal justice, they have an article on their website from 2021. This is from August of 2021. The Kentucky State Police fatally shot 41 people from 2015 through 2020, more than any other law enforcement agency in the state. As far as addressing violence in all forms, including police violence, because gun violence is police violence and it is an active issue.
mhm.
I didn't just tell you a statistic because behind those statistics are actual human beings. 41 people from 2015 through 2020 lost their life due to law enforcement. No matter what somebody does, their life is still worth living, regardless of, we saw it in Minneapolis with George Floyd over an alleged fake, I think it was like a dollar bill or like $10, whatever.
Yeah, it was
And they tried to blame it on drug use as to why he died. No, it was literally ruled as asphyxiation. And this is insane to me that in 2026, and I haven't pulled up like any like most recent statistics, but just thinking about this, you know, how would you address like qualified immunity? Because that's obviously something that absolutely needs to be abolished. And, whenever we think about immunity, we also have masked ICE agents that are running rampant across the country. All of us saw Minneapolis with Alex Preddy, Renee Good, and then in California, Keith Porter Jr. on New Year's Eve, which gets that name gets left out of the conversation. I want to be very clear. We need to absolutely address that as well and ensure justice for Keith as well. Rest in power. But
and
Alex,
also all of the Hispanic names too that never get mentioned.
absolutely. The Dilley Detention Center in Texas, Miss Rachel has made it her mission to get that. And I'm not even going to call it a detention center. It's a concentration camp, is literally what it is.
It's an internment camp. Yep.
Literally, 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 literally. Miss Rachel
Done it
follows
before
us.
here with the Japanese. We're doing it again.
Yep.
We did it with the Chinese as well, by the way, in the 1910s.
Yeah, it's like history repeats itself. And who would have imagined? I mean, I guess we can't imagine our ancestors were trying to tell people for many, many years, right?
Hmm.
But thinking about qualified immunity, thinking about addressing gun violence, thinking about addressing police violence, what do you propose as far as some of your policies that you would support and some of the bills that you would, vote on or support or introduce to address gun violence as a public health crisis?
Yeah, well, I think it's important for us to first and foremost just recognize that it is a public health crisis.
Mhm.
Um, and so, there's a couple things here. First off, about Breonna Taylor, what happened to her? I mean, listen, let's be real. She could have been a trash human, and she still did not deserve to die.
Mhm.
Okay. Like it's
Mhm.
it's it's all well and good and fair to say that she was a wonderful person, that she was a servant of the people and a helper and all those things. That makes it worse. That makes the reality worse.
Mhm.
But even if she was a terrible person, she still did not deserve to die like that. And no one deserves to die like that. And um, when I was pretty pissed off, to be honest with you, that I was the only person in my race who actually posted on March 13th in her remembrance. I was like, did y'all just forget about this? Like, y'all are all happy to post your I'm a moms demand gun action, common sense gun law advocate, but you're not going to comment on like literally the most horrifying incident of police brutality and gun violence in our state in recent memory in this decade, and it was just silent. So, um, but I think that there's a lot of things that we can do. I mean, I will say that I do take umbrage when, folks who are gun collectors or they're really into guns or whatever. Like, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that much about guns because I don't really care about guns. Like, I don't want to, it's not what I want to spend my time learning about. I don't want to spend my time learning about how they work, all the brands, all the differences between a this one or a that one. Like, that's just not my life. That's so I don't really want to get all esoteric about the types of guns. But when I say we need an assault weapons ban, I don't want people coming at me being like, well, actually, these have been banned for a long time. I'm like, you know what I mean? We're talking about AR-15s. We're talking about rapid fire guns that are only supposed to be used in military applications. Those have no reason to be in our streets. Nobody needs to own those. Have I shot them before? Yes, I have. It's very fun. And I will tell you the other thing, how scarily accurate I was. And I have not shot a gun that many times in my life. So those have no place in our streets. So I am for an assault weapons ban. But, listen, in this country, we have, your two Ayers. We also have the fact that the NRA spends a lot of money on political campaigns. And I mean, they have a giant building right next to the Capitol. And they there's no reason that we shouldn't be regulating guns like we regulate cars. Cars are lethal weapons, to be honest with you. They serve a really good purpose, right? But cars are lethal weapons, right? A lot of people die in car accidents. But in order to get a car, what do you have to do? You have to get a license. You have to go through training. You have to learn how it works. You have to pay property taxes on it. You have to pay insurance on it. I feel like those are pretty basic things that we shouldn't have a problem with. And people say, well, I'm just not for crazy people owning guns. And I was like, well, define crazy. And then you want to get into a mental health conversation and a healthcare conversation. And there are
Mhm.
all these other conversations that we can get into from there. But to me, we need more regulation because right now the number of signs I see everywhere being like, oh, the Olika Shriners Temple, there's a gun show. I can walk in there and buy a gun and walk out.
Yep.
I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to load it. I could shoot myself in the face. But that's, I guess, my right as an American. To shoot myself in the face. I don't know. It's also a uniquely American way to die to get shot at school. However, they're saying that, well, we should just give teachers guns. That would solve it.
Mm, mm,
And so what I said
mm.
when this whole, staged assassination attempt just happened at the correspondence dinner, I said, well, why don't you just give all the people at the correspondence dinner guns? Wouldn't that stop, an assassin coming in? And then all of a sudden they're real quiet about that. Oh, it's not the same thing. Okay, but putting more guns in schools is a safe thing. We actually had an instance here this week that I was very disappointed with. Tates Creek Middle School. A kid brought a gun to school, middle school. I think he was like a seventh grader. Brought a gun to school. They said, oh, well, he didn't intend to use it. And no one was actually in danger. I'm like, and I was actually pretty disappointed in the Lexington police about that because it kind of got into that actually situation. They were like, oh, well, it was this, and that's how technically it was. And I'm like, parents and neighbors and children don't want to be told actually that this is the wrong word or that's the wrong phrase to use. If there is a gun in a school around children, children go to school to be safe and to learn and to grow, to be nurtured, to be loved, to be cared for. If a gun is in that school, that threatens them. Any firearm in that school is a threat. That is not okay. And I was very disappointed in Lexington Police's response to that. But, I mean, there's things like Ethan's Law, right? Like we can continue to enforce things like that, assault weapons bans. And I do believe that there should be identification, right? If the Republicans are going to say, well, you need an ID to buy liquor and drive a car, and they're saying that, oh, well, you need an ID to vote, well, then you need an ID to own a gun. You need
Period.
an ID to do all of that. So,
Hmm.
at the very minimum, we need licensure, we need training, and we need some kind of skin in the game situation, right? Where it's like, whether it's insurance, whether it's a property tax, whether it's a recertification, we need something to make sure that people have skin in the game. Because if you are one of those responsible gun owners, this shouldn't be a problem for you.
Exactly. And it brings me to like my next thing. There was legislation that was introduced in 2020, and it's been practically introduced like practically every year. I haven't seen a whole lot of movement on it, like with this current Congress just yet. But George Floyd Policing Act of 2025 was introduced by Congressman Glenn Ivey, which has a really good primary challenger, by the way. Just throwing that out there. It has a couple of really good ones. They've been on this podcast. But key aspects of that legislation would be accountability and qualified immunity. The bill would aim to make it easier to prosecute police misconduct. Um, it would also restrict policing tactics. It would ban chokeholds and carotid holds at the federal level and restricts no-knock warrants in drug cases. It would also create a national registry and transparency, which would be essentially like if a nurse commits a crime, they lose
Mhm.
their license. Okay. And they also go on a registry to where they can no longer be a nurse. Essentially, they lose their license. Why? And a lot of this goes into the qualified immunity part. But essentially, what can happen is a police officer can go, they can shoot three, four, five, how many ever people. They get fired from that department. Okay. They can go to the next city over
Mhm.
and do the exact same thing. And they're not held accountable. And it's insane to me because all they have to do is say, oh, it was self defense, it was self defense, self defense. I thought my life was in danger. Breonna Taylor posed a risk to you. She was sleeping in her fucking bed. That she posed a
And her
fucking
boyfriend
risk
had a legal gun.
and defended their apartment. I mean, this is where the stand your
Yeah,
ground
stand your
laws.
ground here. Yeah. Thank you.
Exactly. And this would also have camera mandates. You know, federal officers are required to wear body cameras, and state and local law enforcement are required to use federal funds to ensure the use of body worn and dashboard cameras.
Yes.
Here's the key thing to it, though. If their vehicle is turned, at least here in Kansas and the county in which my mom lives in, if they wear body cameras, they're required to leave their vehicle turned on. If their vehicle is off, their camera goes off, based on what I understand. And which is insane to me. And that obviously needs to change.
That's like the bag phones. Like when we first had cell phones. It's
Yes.
like most people are probably too young for that, but like I'm 38, but like I do remember that. And it's like you had everyone was like, "Oh, I have a cell phone." And you're like, "Oh, great." But you had to plug it into your like cigarette lighter in the car and it ran off your car battery. So if your car battery died, you couldn't make a phone call. Like it's like what use is this? This is stupid. This doesn't use. There's no use for this.
Exactly. And at that point, if your vehicle is turned off and your camera goes off, what's the point in wearing it? Because you're going to do the same shit regardless. I mean, they do it anyway, even if it is on or off anyway. There was a really horrific case out of Lenexa, Kansas, where there was a Latino man that I believe got into like an argument with somebody or something like that. And he was sleeping in his car. And police, he did not speak English, but he wasn't understanding a lot of like what they were saying. They shot and killed this man in cold blood, and the district attorney refused to press charges because he's like, "Oh, they acted in self-defense." We all watched the video. We watched the body cam footage, and it was horrific. It was an absolutely horrific case of police. It goes beyond misconduct. It's just like cold-blooded murder.
Yeah.
Just like Alex Preddy, just like Renee Good, just like like we mentioned about earlier, Keith Porter. But would you vote for the George Floyd Policing Act? What would
Yeah.
you and what else
Yeah,
would you
absolutely. Duh.
what I mean it's common sense. Yes.
Ugh.
You'd be surprised. On both sides of the aisle,
I
this is
I'm gonna
still a debate.
I'm gonna tell you something though. I really don't like using the phrase common sense anymore because common sense is
Out the
there is no
window.
sense
Yeah.
that is common anymore. Like
Yes.
we used to be like, well, obviously it's just common sense. Well, we don't have that anymore. That is out the it, it's it there is no common sense No one knows what common sense is because some people will say, oh, well, like boys shouldn't be using girls' bathrooms. That's just common sense. And it's like, well, they're trans women. They can use the women's bathroom.
Hmm.
Also, I will use the men's bathroom if there's too long a line. I don't care. Um, like who gives a shit? I don't give a shit where people take a shit. Like I really don't. And like it's what I'll say though is that let me talk about one thing. So I've had a lot of conversations. My sister wanted to go into policing for a while, and you always have these conversations. They're like, "Oh, well, it was the bad apple. It's only a few bad apples." And I've talked to a lot of police forces and I've talked to a lot of folks around here. And one of the big challenges we have around here is that a lot of these police forces, right, these local county forces, they will train their policemen and then counties one over will poach them.
Hmm.
And so they keep having to like sink all this money and then they're underfunded and then they're undercovered and then like so essentially all the good ones are being poached, right? Because they're not making enough in one county over another. And in Kentucky, the average police pay is like 60 or 50 to 60K. A living wage in Lexington is about $85,000. And so my argument is actually like we are not attracting good people into the police because we're not paying them enough. The training, we are not like making sure that there is are contracts that are good for anti-poaching. We're having an issue with that here in Lexington. A lot of people are being poached. And so if we are not investing appropriately in our police forces to make sure that they are paid well, so it is attracting the good people who wouldn't maybe necessarily go into like, I don't know, like private security or like anything else, right? And we have gotten so far away from community policing, nonviolent policing that focuses on building community relationships. And instead, we're in this position where we are so distrustful of the police because all they're doing is hiring people who are so freaking gun happy. And we aren't focused on mental health. And we are shoving people who are these, let's be honest, a lot of them are white men. A lot of them pretty angry white men. And we're just not attracting the right kind of people to a lot of our police forces. And I
Speaking of
think,
which, oh,
yes.
go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
No, and so the thing is, yes, I'm 100% for all of these laws to make sure that people are protected. But what I'm seeing is that like deterrence isn't enough. Like
Hmm.
we need to both create deterrence, but we also need to create incentives to improve our policing. And when I say improve our policing, it's the way that we go about policing. Another part of this is we need to ban private prisons and private jails because it's a $5.5 billion industry and there are quotas for people to be put into prison and into jail because you get paid per inmate. So we need to stop putting bounties on people's heads, on citizens' heads, to be a profit sign for companies that are operating private prisons and private jails. So it's one of these things where it's not just as simple as yes, we absolutely have to ban chokeholds and carotid holds and ban people from being able to go hop to jurisdiction. But we also need to address part of the rest of the system that incentivizes those police forces to arrest more people, to use more brutal tactics. And we also need to actually invest in the police who are doing a good job, who are in it for the right reasons, who aren't those quote unquote bad apples. And we need to invest in more mental health screening and mental health support so that we don't get these like cowboys who now are going to ICE and getting paid money just to like wave around massive weapons and murder people in our streets. So I think it's this is a system that spiders out.
Yep, exactly. And you know how you're talking about like Lexington police?
Mhm.
Um, there was a press release that was released on Wednesday, April 15th, so literally just a little over like a week ago.
Yeah.
A Lexington police officer has been arrested in Scott County, Kentucky. Officer Chad Wilson was arrested on April 14th, 2026, by the Scott County Sheriff's Office for assault fourth degree domestic violence, aka minor injury. Wilson was arrested and taken to the Scott County Detention Center effective April 15th, 2026. Officer Wilson was relieved of sworn duties and transferred to an administrative assignment in accordance with department policy while the incident is under review. Which brings me into my next thing: domestic violence, sexual
Mm.
violence. We in trafficking, Jeffrey Epstein, um, both chambers of Congress passed to where they needed transparency whenever. I mean, obviously, we need transparency. These survivors have been through absolute hell for the last at least 2 to 3 decades. This is they Everybody says, well, why did they wait till Trump was in office? Why did they wait for this? Why did they wait for that? Okay, let's stop with the fucking victim blaming, because whenever you come out against a quote unquote powerful man, and
Like Eric Swalwell.
I'm getting there. And you know what? Actually, yeah, let's go directly to that, because I saw people in the comments section. They were like, "Oh, the why did they wait until he was running for governor? Why did they wait for this? Why did they wait for that?" These are the same people who are going to turn around and post about the Jeffrey Epstein files in literally the next sentence. In the next post, they're going to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein files. You cannot condemn one if you're not going to condemn all. It does not matter what party somebody belongs to. Predators run in all parties.
Yeah.
It does not matter if it's a Democrat, does not matter if it's a Republican. Just like in the Epstein files itself, if you're a Democrat, you need to be prosecuted. If you're a
No.
Republican, you need to be prosecuted. Oh, you're a Democratic Socialist. Guess what? You still need to be prosecuted. I say that as a Democratic Socialist myself.
I
But
say especially Democrats should be prosecuted because I don't want them in my party.
facts,
I don't want them representing me.
facts. They Anybody across the spectrum shouldn't be in any
No.
elected official or any like public role, because it's not cute. There's nothing funny about it. And do you know what kills more than anything? Do you know what it is? It's toxic masculinity. I
Yes,
say
yes.
this.
ICE, policing, all the things. Yes.
You know what my mom says?
Mm.
I'm gonna let you guess. So she says the main things that affect a woman's life involves men. Do you know what it is? Menopause, menstrual cycle. she
Mental
t-
health.
Mental health. She tells me this, and she was like, "But here's the thing: I raised you right." She said, and what I mean by that is, and she's right. I learned consent from a very, very young age. I learned what sex was. I learned how to use a condom. I used all of that. My mom showed me everything, and she did it unashamed. That's where it begins. They're not gonna get this education in schools because they teach about abstinence only. Let's be real. We're talking about a bunch of horny ass teenagers. They don't give a fuck about abstinence. They
Also, it
don't.
doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No, they need to learn about HIV. They need to learn about AIDS. They need to learn about rape. They need to learn about assault. They need to learn about, this is a penis, this is a vagina. Stop using these fucking code names. Tell it exactly what it is. And if they're not going to learn it at school, they're not going to learn it from their parents. They're going to learn it from a television show. They're going to learn it on the internet. They're going to see it on TV. They're going to see it at a friend's house.
Mhm.
I know how I was as a teenager. I was very sneaky. I went behind my mom's back a lot. She found out later, and I never saw my mom's mouth drop as far as I told her like one specific instance, but I'm gonna keep that to myself. But whenever I say that she was like, "I can't believe you fucking did that," I was like, "Well, it was more than once." And I think that's the Leo in me. Like I'm
That's fair.
very like strong headed. I'm very like, you know, and I think my
I'm a
partner would.
Libra, though, but I'm on the cusp of Scorpio, so I've got a little.
I'm surrounded by Pisces. My mom is a Pisces. My co-founder is a Pisces. My partner is a Pisces, and I'm like, fuck, I'm stuck around fish, and I'm like, this is this is crazy. Just keep swimming. Like I'm finding Nemo, and I'm still trying to find Nemo, and then I'm trying to find Dory and like everybody else in between. But it's just I'm just surrounded by Pisces, and I'm like, oh my god, it all makes entire sense. Y'all are giving me like this big Pisces energy, the BPE, and I was like, what? But anyway, I can stay here and I can ramble, but what has, and I know we're coming up on time here in just a minute. I feel like I could
Right.
talk to you for like literally hours, but
Yeah, I'm a big talker too, so I'm like, ooh, chit chat.
so ICE and DHS,
Ugh.
I know we were just laughing, but
My
now we're
shirt
back to.
literally says bourbon, no ice. But it's in my campaign store, store.erinpetrey.com. It's a nice hoodie.
Oh, I love that shameless plug.
Yeah, I know, right?
I might go buy me one. I like it. I might go buy one. I like it. I like it a lot.
It's kind of a
Um,
layer bait too.
I'm gonna say it's getting hot as fuck. I don't need. I'm very naturally like warm blooded.
It's like
I'm
a good
known.
air conditioning hoodie, you know? You know, like when it's too cold inside, but you don't want to turn the AC down because it's too hot, but you're too cold.
Speaking of which, I need to turn my air on because it's one of the. I'm just gonna say this: climate change is real, y'all.
It
If you
is real.
live it, if you
It's
live
an
in the
existential
Midwest
threat.
like me, if you live in the Midwest, any of the Midwest, and I think it's happening like all across the country,
Yes.
but especially like right here in the Midwest, it's like 1 second I am sweating my ass off, the next
Oh
I'm
yeah.
cuddling with my poodle because I'm freezing.
Oh yeah. It's terrible. But
But
so you're saying DHS and ICE.
2003, after 9/11,
Patriot Act.
yep, DHS was created out of alleged fear. And I say alleged because this is like where the Muslim ban came in. This is where like all of this still conversation. Oh my God, Zohran Mamdani was elected. We're gonna have 9/11 repeat itself. No, we're not. We're actually he's gonna fight for the working fucking class. Look what he's doing,
He's
Aaron.
doing an amazing job. He's doing an amazing job.
He's phenomenal. Because guess what? His policies win. His policies work, and it's been
Like, look, I'm helping
proven.
people. What, how terrible is that? People are like, he's going to be a socialist. He's going to turn his place into, he's going to be in. I was like, here's a fun fact. I love doing this also to Republicans who are like, I'll back the blue. I'm like, it's socialist, the police department.
Yes, 100%. And the last person that said, "Oh, I don't support socialism," I said, "So next time your house is on fire, do
Don't
not
call
call
the
the
fire
fire
department.
department because if you have an issue with socialism,
Mhm.
again, don't use those public services. And guess what? Don't cash that SSI check that you get either. And guess what? Don't go to the hospital whenever you're sick. All of these are socialist
Don't you dare
policies.
turn your tap on water. I'm like, you better be going and like what, foraging for your own well or something and trying to like tap your own aquifer. Like, what's wrong with you? It's like, who
Exactly.
are you gonna pay your tolls to as you like pass each road? Like,
Exactly. But ICE and DHS is no stranger to Kentucky.
no.
What has, and I know we're going to talk about no kings here in a second, but because I really want to highlight that because,
Mhm.
Kentucky's been showing up for like these protests and it's been incredible to watch.
Oh yeah.
But we collaborate as a movement. We collaborate with the National 5051 movement page. And
Yeah.
there's some incredible human beings that are behind that.
Oh, there are.
And the organizers across the country, they're doing voter drives. But anyway, we'll get into that in just a second. That'll be the last thing that we'll talk about, and then we'll call it a night. But ICE and DHS, what has it looked like in your area? What does it look like across the state of Kentucky? Just walk us through that, like paint the picture here.
So, I'll start here in my district, right? So, in my district, we do have a decent Hispanic population. I mean, it's not huge. It's like single digits, but we have the horse industry. We have a lot of agricultural industry, and I don't care how much you don't like it. That's how the system works. It relies on those folks. But funny enough, a lot of the big horse farms here who rely on a lot of Hispanic and undocumented folks to run their horse farms, to exercise their very expensive thoroughbred racehorses. Um, they were big Trump donors, and magically, ICE never shows up to their farms. But They do show up in Masterson Station Park, which is a public park here. They will show up in unmarked vehicles around. We have two counties in my district who are 287G participants. Um, and then a friend of mine from graduate school actually messaged me. They were at an event in Oldham County, which is outside of it's closer to Louisville. It actually borders Louisville. There was a Jefferson County public school. Jefferson County is where Louisville is. Jefferson County Public School senior who was held at a local detention center. He's just weeks from his high school graduation. The Oldham County jailer, a guy named Jeff Tyndall, he signed a 287G agreement. And that allows, that's essentially what deputizes local jails and law enforcement to profit from holding ICE detainees. Um, and, it's certainly not the worst of the worst criminals. This kid is like, he just happens to be undocumented. He was about to graduate. Um, but this is what's happening right here. He's a non-violent and he's being held in a cage. And, our local bureaucracy is just padding their pockets because of this kid. And so, they 5051 and a couple of other places, Indivisible, Louisville, and a couple of other organizations showed up at the Oldham County Detention Center on Saturday to protest this, right? And I will tell you, there were 1,041 ICE detainees being held in Kentucky jails earlier this year. Um, we don't have an immigration problem here. And when I say immigration problem, we don't have crime, just being unfettered, like just terrible crime. Our crime is mostly, I was talking to the chief of police in Lexington, and he was like, the number one cause of crime is mental health problems, right? And us not being able to handle that, because it's usually, drug related, or, people steal things, or they just can't hold jobs, or they act out because they're not on the appropriate medication or whatever. Um, but 72% of those 1,041 ICE detainees were classified as non-criminal. They say that we are holding these criminals. So only 18% of those folks had actually committed a crime. 72% are being held in jails. So jails can profit off of your, mine, and everyone listening's tax dollars. 72% of those people had not committed a single crime. The only crime they committed was a civil infraction of being undocumented. People are scared. People are pissed. We don't need this here. We don't need this anywhere. I mean, we don't need it in Kentucky. We don't need it in anywhere in the United States. We need a real immigration system that is community based and focuses on a pathway to citizenship, not arming, people who have anger problems with guns and not training them well. And it's absurd to me. It is absolutely absurd to me that this is where we are. But because, the things in Minneapolis are no longer happening, a lot of people are kind of forgetting about ICE. And I have to remind people, I'm like, ICE is still here and ICE is a problem. And they will be deployed to the polls in November. And that is also a problem. I have been told by a lot of liaisons to the Hispanic community here, Erin, don't go and canvass the Hispanic neighborhoods because they will not talk to you because they are scared. And I speak decent Spanish and I'm like, I understand. I understand that and I will respect that. But we are also disenfranchising these people. We are scaring these people. And that's hurting our communities. It's hurting our neighbors. I've participated now in a couple of fundraisers for Neighbors Immigration Clinic, which is a nonprofit law firm here that is focused on helping these folks. And they jump in quickly. They only have one full-time lawyer. So Neighbors Immigration Clinic, if you do want to throw them a couple bucks, please do. They are a truly incredible organization. It's two people, and it's the executive director was undocumented at one point. And when she gives her speeches, like it's um it's really emotional because she's like, I can't believe that people like me are being treated like dirt, like vermin, like that need to be exterminated. Like these are people. Just because our citizenship is different, just because our paperwork is different, doesn't mean they're not good people. And by the way, if you are in this country, you are protected by our laws. You're protected by our rights, and you deserve due process. And that is fucked that we are not giving this to them. So yeah, abolish ICE, and I will not be apologetic about that stance ever.
And you shouldn't be. And honestly, Abolish feels moderate. It's obviously a good
Oh, we
start.
also need to prosecute the people who have been doing things, right? I mean, like, let's be real. Like, but I'm just saying, like, when people are like, well, don't you think we need immigration enforcement? I was like, yes, of course we need immigration enforcement. Every country has immigration enforcement. But
Literally.
immigration enforcement is one thing, right? Immigration enforcement is one thing.
And being humane is another.
And being
Inclu-
and having a secret police just storming our streets is another, right?
yes.
This should be the same as like parking enforcement, which everybody is annoyed by, but you get around it and you figure it out and you figure it out, right? So yeah, it's
Ooh, the parking police here in Kansas City is fucking terrible. Oh my God.
yeah, but it's like it's these are civil. These are civil
Yes,
infractions.
100%. And literally being undocumented is literally equal to or less than a misdemeanor.
It is, yeah.
And it's insane to me. And they are prosecuted at the highest rates. And not to mention the fact they also pay the highest taxes. Uh,
That
this
part.
is this is the number one thing that really annoys the shit out of me. And I'll tell you this: there was a situation, or not even a situation. This is just a fucked up story in general, and it was in Minnesota. And these ICE agents went to a Mexican restaurant. They sat down, they
I
ate,
heard this. Yes.
they got everything. You know, they they were essentially treated with respect because that's what the community does, right? Even though you're literally terrorizing their neighbors, you're terrorizing the communities, you're kidnapping children, because let's be real, like without due process, it's literally government sanctioned kidnapping. It literally is
It is.
because they have the right to due process guaranteed under the the fifth and the 14th Amendment. Because due process is so important, it appears more than once in the U.S. Constitution. It's literally there. Fact check it. But after like several hours later, these ICE agents came back and detained every single person in that restaurant, even the ones that served them. You want to talk about some fucked up bullshit?
I'm
That
sure
is
they call
exactly it.
themselves Christians too.
Oh, absolutely. They wear these crosses and they go home, they go to church every day, and then they go home and beat on their fucking wives. Like,
Mhm.
Aaron,
We need much,
I
much
consider myself
TV.
I consider myself to be a progressive Christian.
Mhm.
I've never been big in like organized religion. I never have been
Yeah.
because it just feels so cultish. But what we're seeing now are not Christians. They are the fake Christians. We're seeing Christian nationalism and we're seeing the rise of white supremacy. We're seeing the rise of the patriarchy. What'd you say?
It's the KKK. It's the
Yeah,
KKK.
literally. It's just
It's the Klan.
rebranded.
That's what it is.
It's rebranded. They're running around with these vests on that says ICE, or oh, I'm sorry, they're running around with vests that says police, which they're not fucking police.
No, they're not police.
And
Or
I
they're
think
running around with police vests that they bought on Amazon. Or they're
and
running around in Charlie Kirk shirts.
oh, you went there, and Erica Kirk has emotional support fireworks.
Yeah, well, and then people were also like, oh, Erica Kirk was escorted out of the White House Correspondents' Dinner in tears. And I'm like, yeah, well, I guess she can't take any moment to not make everything about herself.
As long as there's a camera.
Hmm.
And I commented on somebody's post, and she last night, for context, there was an alleged shooting event that took place at the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night. I,
Alleged.
um, very heavy, capital bolded, underlined, circled, all that good stuff. Um,
The
but
fireworks effect in the iPhone.
yeah, and I commented and I said, "Oh, Erica, where's your emotional support fireworks?" And she was, there was like a recording that. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this. I cannot. I'm gonna be the first to say it. I cannot stand Candace Owens like literally at all. But I do like what she's doing by exposing Erica for exactly who she is. And she's a grifter. You know how they say that those of us that are going to the No Kings protest and that are protesting like gun violence, you know how we're like crisis actor and we're paid actors. By the way,
It's my
5051,
George Soros check, okay?
yes, I was gonna say, by the way, 5051, where the fuck is my money? I'm supposed to
I
be
should have
getting
raised a lot
this.
more money for my campaign with all of that protesting I do.
Oh, you mean grassroots works? You mean to tell me that grassroots works? Oh my God, what a concept. Speaking of which, we're gonna end with this because, like I said, this can go on for hours.
I was like,
This
I
can go
won't
on
do
for
that.
hours.
That's terrible.
I'm tired, but and I'm gonna go eat some cereal. But because I'm on the go all the time and it's just easy for me to do. But anyway, how can people contribute obviously to your campaign because it's very expensive to run for office. We know that. And how can people contribute to your campaign? So this is going to be a three-part. One, how can people contribute to your campaign? Two, when is your primary? Three, how can they uplift the work that you are doing? I forgot what I was going to say there as number three. I was ready and then I forgot. But those three things, and we'll close with that.
Yeah, so my campaign is, I've worked my butt off, trying to get as much money as possible into my campaign just to spend only the minimum, really, really just what I need to do, right? I don't have an army of consultants. I've only hired local people when I can. Everybody I have has at least a local connection, but my one full-time staffer is from here and lives in the district. And I also hired a junior at the University of Kentucky to be my volunteer coordinator. My fundraiser is from
Yes.
Louisville. Yeah, the guy who does my commercials, he's worked on Steve Bashir's campaigns and Andy Bashir's campaigns, and the person who does my digital worked on Andy Bashir's field team. And so, I mean, everybody on my team has very deep Kentucky connections. You can go to erinpetrey.com, ERINPETREY.com, and there's a big donate button there. You can do that there. You can also buy things in my store.erinpetrey.com, and a portion of that does go to my campaign. All of it is, union printed, American made, and yeah, everything is print on demand, so you can get that there. Number two, my primary date is May 19th. We've got 23 days as of this recording, but so as we are talking right now, May 19th. And yeah, the way that you can uplift my work is, I mean, of course, donations do go a long way. Um, and I also am on every single social media platform, except True Social. I'm not on there because we're not doing that. Um, so I ain't doing that. I'm on pretty much all of those social media platforms. You can find me there, interact with me, retweet. I just say retweet, but just like, repost, follow, engage. If you are interested in, any of my policy or any of my policies or my stances, like you can, duet, make videos and tag me. But also most importantly, if you have friends, family, anybody you know who lives in Kentucky's 6th district, tell them about me. That goes a super long way. I just got a text message from a friend of mine from grad school saying, "My wife was in Lexington today. She got you some votes." And I'm like, "Yay, thank you." Um, this is truly grassroots. This
Mhm.
truly is. I mean, I know I have the people at Trader Joe's telling each other about, my campaign because I'm in there and I see them out at protests and things like that. Every little bit counts, and I am out there doing the work every single day to try to make this state better. And I truly do believe that we can create a more affordable, accessible Kentucky, but also one with more opportunity. And I promise you, not just Kentucky, but America, is that if you show up for me, I will always, always, always show up for you. I am not for sale. I want to be part of this change. And I understand that sometimes people say, oh, well, all politicians say this, but I don't know how to tell you that I really am different. I speak with my heart. Um, I would not be this bold and very forthcoming with opinions if I was going to be selling out to people. So that's what I have to say. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking this time to listen. And please make sure that wherever you are, get engaged in your local campaigns, register to vote, get your family to vote, make a plan to vote, and together we can do this. We really, really can. I believe it at my core. And if we all believe that, big things can happen.
I have nothing to add to that because that's an absolute mic drop moment.
Thank you.
Erin, thank you so much for tuning all the way in from Kentucky. You heard it here. If you are in the Congressional District 6, right? Yes.
Yes,
Congressional, I've talked to so many people, I lost track. I have so many numbers in my mind,
me too.
but Congressional District 6 of Kentucky, vote for Erin. And Erin, thank you so much, and you have a great night.
Zachary, thank you.
Thank you.